Get access to exclusive tutorials and take your paracord weaving to the next level by supporting this channel on Patreon. Hey, what's going on, weavers? Tim here again. In this video, we're learning how to make a paracord Conquistador wallet or card holder. So this design idea was by Possum's Paracord. I did a weaver spotlight on them last week, so you definitely check that out. And yeah, this is a minimal wallet that is done using the Conquistador pattern. It looks great and it works really well as a card holder and a minimal wallet. So I hope you guys will enjoy this one and make one for yourself. So with that being said, let's get into the tutorial. So to start off, I'm working with my longer piece of paracord. That is the midnight color in this case. I'm going to start off by making a slight bend in it. It only has to be a few inches long. Now I'm going to start wrapping my cord around that bend. And we're essentially making a whipping knot. So as you can see, I'm wrapping away from me. And you're going to start wrapping your way down that bend towards that closed loop. And if you want, you can just turn the entire thing to make that process a little bit faster. And I'm just adjusting some of the cords to keep it nice and neat. So now I'm going to continue wrapping and I'm going to make about 9 loops. This is going to determine the width of your Conquistador wallet. Now, once you've made those 9 loops, you're going to pass the long end of the paracord through that closed loop and just pass it all the way through. Now with that working end through that loop, you're going to pull on the loose end on the very bottom there to close that loop and tighten up that sort of long whipping knot we have. And here I'm also just going to firm up the knot and work out a bit of the excess by wrapping the coil a bit tighter. So now that we have our coil, we have our fid attached to the other end and we have the right number of wraps. Now starting from the bottom where the cord is, we're going to start doing our Conquistador knots. Now I'm going to take the fid and pass it through the top of the knot and pull all that excess cord through. So as you can see, I went from the very top of the knot out the bottom, and that's kind of based on the orientation in which I'm holding that coil. So now I'm going through the second loop and pull all that cord through. And you're going to do this from the bottom end all the way to the top. And this is going to form the base of our Conquistador. Now notice I'm not passing that working end of the cord on top of the loop. So make sure it stays on the outside. Notice how that loose end stays on the outside of the loops, on the right side. And do this all the way to the very top. Now when we get to the very top, do not forget to go through that very top loop there. So you don't want to ignore that last loop at the very end. So again, I'm going through the very top, push the fid all the way through, and keep that working end on the outside. So what you should have now should look similar to what I have here. So we've essentially done the first row of the Conquistador knots. Now we're going to go back the way we came. So notice how now I'm going to take my fid and I'm going to insert the fid again through the bottom of the loop and pull it out the other side. And as you can see how my working end stays under the loop. So now we're just going back the way we came. So again, see fid is going through the quote unquote bottom of the knot. You're going to work that through that loop. And be careful not to pierce the paracord. And pull out the working end out the bottom into the right side while staying underneath the previous loop. And your cord will get tangled from here and there, so you will have to untwist it. So again, continue this process going all the way down to the very bottom of where you started your knots. So now, making our way back down to the very bottom, we're getting close to where we started. And again, don't forget to go through all the knots. So you may be tempted to stop there, but make sure you continue to go through all the knots and go back to the very knot you began with. So now we've done 2 passes of the Conquistador knots. And this is essentially how you're going to make the first side of the wallet or the back of the wallet. You're just going to continue weaving these rows of Conquistador knots back and forth until you've reached your desired size. So continue this process, weaving back and forth, doing your Conquistador knots, and you'll have to do enough so that it's larger than the size of the card you are carrying. I just aimed for a size that is slightly bigger than the size of a standard credit card. And as you can see, it does get much easier as you weave the pattern of the Conquistador knots, and you're basically making a sheet of this Paracord Conquistador knots. Now the amount of paracord I used came up a little short, and I actually did have to graft on extra paracord here and there, but don't worry about that. In the video I do have the correct measurements. So I did have to end up using a hemostat just to get the last knot through, but at this point I did achieve the amount of Conquistador knots I needed for the back of the wallet. So as you can see, it's just about a little bit bigger than the average size of a credit card. So now with my secondary color, I'm going to do the exact same thing. So I made that bend in the paracord, and I started wrapping my paracord around that bend to make the coil, and as well as the kind of whipping knot again. So again, pass that end through the end of the coil and tighten it up. So as you can guess, we're going to start the second side of the wallet in a very similar process. We're going to do the exact same thing with the coil of paracord, and you're going to tie the whipping knots the exact same way, and you're also going to start the Conquistador knots the exact same way. And again, to repeat the same process, you're going to use your FID and make those Conquistador knots again. So just to reiterate, I did about 9 wraps around the initial starting coil, and then I started my Conquistador knots after that. So this next part of the wallet includes making enough Conquistador rows of knots to about just over half the size of the back of the wallet. Now if you look closely, I did about 12 rows of Conquistador knots. So, and I'm just going to put it next to my back of my wallet there. So the gold piece is the front piece. And as you can see, when I hold it there, it's almost, I think earlier I said just over half. It's actually just under half is what I meant. So now you're going to continue doing the Conquistador knots. But now what you're going to do to create that angled piece is that when you get to the very end of the wallet, in this case, it's towards the bottom part, facing closest towards my body, if you can imagine it that way, I'm going to stop 1 knot short. Okay, so as you can see, this is the second last knot. I'm going to stop here, and at this point I'm going to turn around and go back the way I came. So this is going to start making that angled piece of the front of the cardholder wallet. So see, as you can see there, that's the last knot, but I'm not going to go to the very last knot. I'm going to stop 1 knot short and start going back the way I came. So this process is essentially continuing the same Conquistador knots, but with every row, you're going to stop 1 knot short. And by going 1 knot short each time, it's going to create that angled effect. So we'll have the cutout for where we can reach the cards much more easily. So again, I'm making my way down the wallet. I'm going to tie the same Conquistador knots. And again, with this row, I'm going to go 1 knot shorter. So each successive time, tie the same Conquistador knots, but stop 1 knot short and turn around and go back in the direction you came. So again, for this row, I'm stopping 1 knot short, and there we go. So all you have to do from this point on is continue Conquistador knots, each time stopping 1 knot short, and just do that until you get down to a single Conquistador knot, and you'll have that fully angled piece that should be about the same length as your back piece. Now, as you can tell from this point, I'm nearing the very top of my front panel, And yeah, the knots just kept getting smaller and smaller, one less knot at each time. And you're just going to continue that process till you get it down to one single conquistador knot. So now I'm coming down to the last couple knots, and I don't think I ended up finishing on a single knot. That depends on the length of your panel. So if it's too long, if by going to maybe the last 2 knots or single knot, just do whatever it takes to get to about the same height as your back panel. So I clipped off the excess paracord here, just snipped and melted it, and I did that on the top and the bottom of the panel. Melting it with my jet lighter and pressing it down with the nottage tool. I'm also going to do the same for my back panel, clipping off the excess paracord. So now we have our front panel as well as our back panel, and I'm using 275 paracord to connect the front panel to the back. So I'm going in from this angled piece here where the angled edge meets the right angle edge, and all I'm going to do to anchor my cord is I'm putting my cord through this first loop. I'm going to pull it almost all the way through, and all I'm going to do from here is leave a little bit sticking out. Then I'm going to take my lighter to it, just give it a little bit of a melt, and then I'm going to press down on it with the nottage tool to get it nice and mushroomed out so that it's locked in there. Now, lining up the front panel with my back panel, I'm just going to do a simple back and forth stitch to try to link everything together. And I'm just using the inside loops there. So if you can see, there's kind of a row of loops on the outside and a row on the inside. And I'm just going to angle my fid and go in from one loop to the next, from the front to the back. Now, if you figure out a better way to do this, definitely do what you think is better. This is just kind of what I improvised at the time, and I felt like it was more than strong enough to keep the card holder together. So as you can see, I'm going again from the front to the back, looping it around, kind of just doing a simple overhand stitch. I think that's what it's called. I'm going to repeat this same stitching process down this entire side of the wallet. Definitely feel free to use your nottage tool in this process if getting the fid through is a little tough. So now I'm going to get to the very corner of my wallet. So I've arrived at the very corner of my wallet, and I also took time in between there to get out any excess cord. I'm just going to pull up on the loops and make sure that stitch is nice and tight. Now from the corner, we're going to transition to the bottom of the wallet. So as you can see, there's these kind of angled loops on the bottom. I'm going to open 2 of them up with my fid, and we're just going to start going in this way from the back to the front. And in this case, again, I'm just going to go through the 2 bottom loops on each side and put my fid through. And again, do kind of like an overhand stitch going down the bottom of the wallet. I'm going to do this all the way along the bottom of the wallet until you get to the next side. Now if you don't have a 275 cord, you can use micro cord or any sort of thinner cord you want. You could even try using gutted 550 if you don't have any thinner cord. Now, making our way to the final side, I'm just again passing the cord through one of the loops on the corner there. So I'm going to go through to the back side there. And now again, I'm going to continue that same process of kind of angling the cord and going through the loops that connect the front to the back. Yep, just repeat that same process, making your way down the final side of the wallet. Now, once you get to the very end here, I'm going to do one more knot coming from the front to the back. So we'll get that fit in there, connect the very top of the wallet. And as you can see, the stitching actually made a very nice pattern. The lines there are nice and angled, so I think it looks quite good. So we have our cord coming out the back. Now I'm going to go through the front one more time, and I apologize for being slightly out of frame here, but I'm just going through that very top knot there. So you can see right there, it's going to come out to the front one more time. And because I don't want that melted end to be on the very front there, I'm going to pass it back to the inside. So see that top knot? I'm going to go right through there with my 275 cord, and then I'm going to snip and melt that cord where it is. So now I don't have the melted end on the outside. And again, I'm just going to tighten my stitching here with my nottage tool. Just pull up on those cords and get all the excess through. All right. So that looks good there. Now we just have to clip off our last little excess strand. Grab my scissors, clip that cord off, and be very careful melting at this point. Definitely benefits to use a jet lighter here because I can control the direction of the flame. Just going to melt that a little bit, press down on it. And there we have it. Our wallet is finished. It is ready for our most important cards only. And loving the way this one turned out. The Conquistador wallet, very beautiful knot, very beautiful project. And I think it worked out nicely. If you're a fan of minimal wallets, this might be the one for you. Was a little bit time consuming, but I think the end result was worth it. Again, a huge shout out to Possum's Paracord for coming up with this awesome design idea. And as you can see, the card holder does hold maybe about 5 to 6 cards, and don't let that make you think it can't hold a single card. As you can see, it holds my precious Menchie's card very securely, even with just one card in there. All right, that is the Conquistador Paracord wallet, guys. And as always, a huge shout out to my Patreon supporters. You guys are making a huge difference for this channel. If you guys want access to exclusive tutorials, feel free to check out my Patreon page. Link is in the video as well as down below. Thank you so much for watching. See you on the next video.